Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 ways that you can build your following, your platform, to help you with your traditional book publishing deal. So 5 ways to build your writing platform. Now, the first thing I want to say is that platform is not about posting. It's not about posting 15 things on Instagram every day. It is not about posting 15 blogs all in a hurry, all in a heap. It is not about quantity. It's about relevance and value. So before you even start trying to build your platform, you need to actually understand who you're talking to and what it is that you are so compelled to share. So you need to know yourself. You need to do that personal brand work, which is understanding what makes you authentically you, what makes you passionate about this project, because you're probably building your platform to sell your book. So what is it about this book that is so meaningful to you? What matters to you so much about it? For example, my Instagram was where I sort of started building my platform before A Letter from Paris came out. And I knew that I was interested in France. I was interested in Australian and French history and connections there. And I was really interested in writing and literature and literary history. So that's the kind of stuff that I posted about. That's the kind of stuff I shared. And that was where I found my relevance, because what I had written and was writing and was developing at that stage, the book wasn't written and I was still researching it, was important to me for those reasons. So you've got to understand what's important to you about your topics and themes, and then bring that relevance into the things that you share and you write about. So 5 ways that you can build your platform, and it's not about posting. It's important to remember that what I talk about in terms of consistency, if you watch the Fast Track Your Book Deal masterclass, is about consistency in who you are and your values. And so what I was saying before about how I identified that I was interested in French Australian history, literary history and connections, memoir, particularly. This was how I ended up developing a whole memoir writing course, because I realized how meaningful it was to me and how much it mattered to me because of this whole discovery of my late father's memoir in the library. So once you've understood and clarified what is really meaningful to you in your writing project, your book that you are trying to sell, you're going to focus on building your platform through forming connections in the industry. And the way you do this is by sharing valuable content and sharing what matters to you. So for the first example, you could start a Substack. It's just called a Substack. Now, I actually have a blog instead of Substack. I don't use Substack because I actually want people to come to my website. But that is because I sell courses and I sell things from my website. So Substack could work well for you. It is monetizable, which means that you could have a free version and a paid subscriber version with extra information or additions. And someone that I've seen do this really well is Natasha Lester. She's a historical fiction author. And she shares lots of industry stuff because I think she has a lot of writers subscribing, like me, to the paid version of her Substack, who are interested in the industry events and stuff that she goes to and the trends that she's speaking of. So Substack is great because, again, if you don't have a website set up, it's a great way to share really valuable articles and content, and it is actually monetizable. So if you want to make money from your writing, you could actually develop a paid version. I actually recommend having both, not just a closed door paid version. I think that a free version, particularly if you're just starting out and you don't have much of a following, that is how you build your following. So choose your topics, go back to your values and what your project is about, your writing project, and focus on that. And just focus on what interests you about those topics and angles and themes, and go deep and go valuable and put a lot of effort in. I mean, I think this is something as well that people don't really realize is I've been writing my blog for over 7 years. I have almost 200 blogs on memoir writing and publishing. This is not something that I just did over a weekend and then said, there, I've got all these blogs. I've been writing these and I don't use AI. I write these in my own time and share them on on my blog. And a lot of this stuff is free education for people. I've had emails from people who've said to me, I haven't taken any of your courses, but I've learned so much about writing from your blog. So share value, don't just gloss over the topic. So Substack is great. An essay. So getting an essay published is the top of my list for building your platform. The reason getting an essay published is really great, and I mean in a publication that actually pays and vets authors. It's not or even the opinion section of a high caliber newspaper could be good. The reason you want to get an essay published in major media outlets, one essay, not many, on your topic or theme, and explore part of the hook in that essay, is because it builds social proof, as I've shared in many other videos about platform and in the Fast Track Your Book Deal masterclass. It shows that there's social proof to a publisher that there is interest in your writing, in your story, in your angles, and in your hook, okay? So this is how my blog post that I wrote about finding my father's letters and papers and material in the library, that led me to make connections that led to my eventual book deal for A Letter from Paris, because there was an enormous amount of engagement on that blog post, which showed social proof. So an essay, a blog post for someone else, a guest post, again, put some effort into it. I didn't just send out something that I wrote in 10 minutes to that blog. I worked on it all weekend, and I had a full-time job at the time, and it was almost like a synopsis that I was putting out there for the book that I was wanting to write. And it led to my deal before I'd even written the book, so it was worth it. But other than that, it was also worth it to me because it showed me what was interesting about the story. And that's another reason I recommend writing something for media outlets or guest posting a blog or an article for someone, because it shows you what people are engaging with and what they find interesting about the story. And it builds social proof, and it gives you something to then share on. See, this is the thing that people think platform is. Then share on your Instagram or Twitter or Facebook as a post. You would make a post leading people back to that article. Okay? So it's sharing posts about your high value material that then circulates that material to a wider ecosystem of individuals and grows your reach. Okay, so it's not just the posting on the Instagram, it's posting and creating actual authentic original work. I do just want to say something though about essays and blog posts and guest posts. Something that I've seen with memoir writers particularly, it breaks my heart, is that they do too much. They get so much published on the topic, on their story. They speak to major media and then it's all gone and there's nothing new to reveal in the book. So you've got to be really careful, okay? And this is why I don't recommend going into that without actually having a fully developed manuscript first. The reason I was able to do that with A Letter from Paris is because I knew the publishing industry. I knew what was going to work. I'd had a memoir published. I knew I wasn't revealing the entire story, and it was only one blog post. I had to be very, very careful though, because I had other media interested, and I actually said no to other media because I knew that if it was covered by a particular show that was interested, it then I would not be offered a book deal, and I really wanted to write a book about it. Okay, so we've had Substack, essays, blogs, so it doesn't even need to be for a huge blog, it can be your own blog. This is 5 ways that you can build your platform. The next step is to write a column or an article. Now, this is different to an essay. A column or an article is like a how-to or step-by-step, or how I managed to go from this to this, or how I did this or this. It's less narrative, it's less literary than an essay, but it still gets your name out there. It gets you, you get a bit of a gauge of what's interesting about the topic, and again, you can use those clips in your book proposal or your query to say, I was published, I had this byline in Newsweek or wherever that was. Lastly, I want to say LinkedIn or Medium. You can write articles for LinkedIn or Medium. Now, I don't really use LinkedIn, but I know that it is a high it's a more professional audience. And so if you are writing a memoir or a narrative nonfiction about, say, a medical topic or a political topic or any kind of topic that has, certain really high caliber organizations that would be interested, LinkedIn could be a very fantastic way for you to start building those connections and growing your reach. If you have a regular article, regular posting schedule where you share interesting experiences or material or news or statistics on the topic on LinkedIn. I've personally never really used Medium. I think I reshared one of my blogs just to see how you logged in and stuff, but I've never really used it. But I know that other writers have gotten book deals through articles that went viral on Medium. I think it was Dr. Ben Hardy, who was the #1 writer for Medium, and that was the year that he got his first traditional publishing book deal. Okay, so that's 5 ways. Substack, an essay that is narrative in nature for a more literary publication, a blog, a column or an article, and LinkedIn or Medium. Now, just remember what I said about how consistency works differently with building your platform. You want to be consistent in the topics and the material and the value that you give so that people know who you are and what they're getting. This is what I mean by identify your core values and what is important to you about this writing project that you are trying to sell, this memoir. So for me, it was memoir. It was Australian and French history, and it was literary history, and that whole personal family narrative stuff. So that directed then what I wrote and what I shared on Instagram in terms of photographs, and that also directed the types of things I published. So I hope this has helped you. Ask me any questions if it is unclear, but you will need to know how to write, obviously, because you're building a writer's platform, and storytelling is important whether you're posting something on social media or you're writing an essay or an article. So this is why the art of memoir is the way that it is, because I'm teaching you narrative story structure, how to write a compelling story, and you'll be able to use those tools and techniques in an essay or a shorter piece as well. It's just basically a shorter version of your memoir. But be very careful not to share the full story if you haven't got a publishing deal yet. You're really just wanting to gauge some interest, drive some interest to your story, and not give the entire story away. And build your reach and build your connections. And platform is just connections and relationships. Just think about it like that. There's nothing fake about it. It is just you being you and talking about and writing about the things that you are passionate about. You can also, I've seen people who've had interest from publishers after being at conferences and events and things like that. But again, you do need to show some actual writing and get some clips or some bylines to show publishers and potential literary agents that you can write. Okay, so this is why the writing must come first. You need to know how to write a story and how to pitch it too. So I hope this has helped, and I will see you soon.